Peace and love, family. Welcome back to The Hope, the HOPE, helping our people elevate. This is the channel where we uncover real stories the history tried to bury, stories of injustice, perseverance, and Black excellence against all odds. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. If you're a returner, as I always say, welcome back, family. Today I'm bringing you the heartbreaking and powerful story of Darryl Hunt, a young Black man from North Carolina who spent 19 years behind bars for a crime that he did not commit. This is the story you need to hear. Let's jump into it. Peace and love.
On behalf of Akuno Call for Bay, you know what I'm saying? Jay, where you at? We're trying to help our people elevate. Hope, HOPE. We're giving them hope. We doing what we gotta do, you know. Every day, one step at a time, man. We gonna make it happen. Helping our people elevate. Yeah. Sometimes I practice focus, thought, and meditate. I'm trying to come with other ways to help our people elevate and seeking knowledge, make me levitate. The lifted mental state is what results from how we orchestrate. This for the family's sake. Let's self-reflect and self-evaluate. And every day, make sure the steps you take, you calculate. Receive a master's fate. I know I can't exist without the hate, but that's okay. I balance that with higher self today. Success is on this way, and after that, my flesh can pass away.
The crime was incredibly violent. Deborah Sykes, a 25-year-old newspaper copy editor, beaten, raped, and stabbed 16 times. Attacked in the early morning on a downtown street in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Her body dumped in this small, rundown park 20 years ago.
It was a very loud scream.
Witnesses identified 19-year-old Darryl Hunt as the killer, even though he did not fit the initial descriptions given police.
He's a robber and a rapist and a kidnapper and a sadistic butcher.
There was no physical evidence linking Hunt to the crime, but he was convicted and sentenced to life in prison in 2 separate trials.
Your attorneys came to you at that second trial and offered you a deal that they said would be reasonable.
Yes.
Plead guilty and get off for time served.
Yes.
Was it tempting?
No, because I didn't commit the crime. And I thought it would be an injustice not only to myself, but to Mrs. Sykes and her family.
A decade ago, advances in DNA testing ruled Hunt out as the rapist. But since he also was convicted of her murder, he remained in prison for 18 years.
How did you keep the bitterness from sinking you?
Anger and bitterness eats you up from the inside. I wanted to live.
That's why he married April, his longtime friend, in a prison wedding 4 years ago.
He may not ever get out.
And if you'd never been able to be with him?
I have him in the next life.
She did not have to wait that long. An extraordinary sequence of events set forth the truth. Judge Andy Cromer ordered crime lab technicians to compare the DNA evidence with a database of state prisoners. That led investigators to this man, Willard Brown, whose DNA, they said, matched the semen taken from Deborah Sykes' body.
He's made a statement that he is responsible for the crime and he acted alone.
They found Brown in jail, serving 60 days on a parole violation.
Myself and Agent Williams took custody of him at 11:15. He was due to be released at 12 o'clock.
Hunt was not entirely free yet, merely released on bond, while detectives made sure he wasn't an accomplice to the murder.
Good morning.
What they found was astounding. Willard Brown had been identified in a lineup as a rapist before, less than 6 months after Deborah Sykes was attacked. While Darryl Hunt was awaiting trial for his life, another woman was abducted just 3 blocks from where Mrs. Sykes was murdered. There were striking similarities between the 2 crimes. Both women were in their early 20s, both on their way to work in the early morning, both repeatedly stabbed. But the second rape victim survived and refused to press charges, so no one was ever prosecuted for that crime. In March 1986, detectives did interview Brown about the Sykes case, but mistakenly thought he was in prison at the time of the rape. So they let him go. Last November, Winston-Salem Police Chief Linda Davis told an investigator to check again.
He found that Willard Brown was released from prison in June of 1984, prior to the August murder of Deborah Sykes.
So Darryl Hunt spent half his life in prison because of a typo.
Darryl Hunt was just 19 years old in 1984. a quiet, soft-spoken young man from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, someone who had never been arrested before. But his life would change forever on August 10, 1984, when Deborah Sykes, a 25-year-old white newspaper copy editor, was found raped and murdered near downtown Winston-Salem. The police were under pressure to find someone to blame. Within days, the name Darryl Hunt was thrown into the mix, not based on evidence, but based on racial bias, rumors, and unreliable witnesses. Hunt was arrested and charged even though there was no physical evidence linking him to the crime. No DNA, no fingerprints, nothing. But this was 1984 in the South, and Darryl Hunt was a young black man accused of killing a white woman. The case against Hunt relied heavily on witness testimony, most of which was later proven to be false or coerced. There were inconsistencies, confessions that didn't match the crime, and a rush to judgment. Even when the jury in the first trial could not reach a unanimous decision, prosecutors did not give up. In the second trial, despite all the flaws in the case, Darryl Hunt was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison. He was only 20 years old when the state of North Carolina took his freedom. Darryl Hunt never gave up hope. He maintained his innocence from day one. Over the years, new information started to come to light. People began to question the case. Journalists, activists, and eventually even lawyers from the Innocence Project took interest. In 1994, 10 years into his sentence, DNA evidence was finally tested. The results, the DNA found that the crime scene did not match Darryl Hunt. It was proof that someone else had committed the rape. But even with that evidence, North Carolina refused to release him. Instead, prosecutors tried to argue that he may have still been an accomplice. Darryl remained in prison for another 9 years, even though evidence was on his side. In 2003, the DNA was finally matched to a man named Willie Earl Covington, who eventually confessed to the crime. It had taken 19 years, but in December 2003, Darryl Hunt walked free. He left prison a 38-year-old man, having spent nearly half of his life behind bars for something that he did not do. He didn't walk out bitter, he walked out determined. Darryl Hunt turned his pain into purpose. He co-founded the Darryl Hunt Project for Freedom and Justice, working with exonerees and those who have been wrongfully incarcerated. He spoke at universities, trained lawyers, and worked tirelessly to reform the criminal justice system that stole his life. He helped others reclaim theirs. He wasn't just a symbol of injustice, he became a beacon of hope and redemption. But the years of pain never truly left Darryl. Despite his efforts to create change, the emotional scars ran deep. In 2016, Darryl Hunt was found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. He was just 51 years old. His death shook the community and reminded the world of the hidden cost of injustice. While the courts may have cleared his name, the trauma left behind was something even freedom couldn't fix. Darryl Hunt's story is not just about one man, it's about a system that still fails black men and women every day. It's about how truth can be ignored, how lives can be destroyed, and how justice delayed is justice denied. But it's also a story of the unshakable spirit of a man who, even after being broken by the system, rose up to change it. So in the comments, let's drop rest in power to Darryl Hunt, because your life was not in vain. If this story moved you, share it. Let the world know that Darryl Hunt's name deserves to be remembered, not as a criminal, but as a survivor and as a warrior for justice. Like, comment, and subscribe for more stories that deserve the light. Peace and love.
If we had had access to all the information, we would have known about Willard Brown before the first trial.
Sometimes it takes a long time to find the truth, longer still to accept it. Deborah Sykes' mother, Evelyn Jefferson, showed up at the hearing to dismiss charges against Hunt.
I do not believe in Mr. Hunt's innocence. And I believe that what you're about to do here today is set free a guilty man who's guilty of my daughter's death.
But Judge Cromer said the words Hunt had been waiting for all these years.
Today, we acknowledge a mistake was made. We will dismiss this case with prejudice.
Before Hunt left a free man, he spoke from his heart to Mrs. Sykes' mother.
As hard as it is for me, Ms. Jefferson, I had nothing to do. Go. I know it's hard.
People talk about closure, but there will never be closure because closure means you forget something. That was her daughter, so she'll never have closure. You just ask for a peace.